Hi, David.
Hi, Alicia.
So we just recorded an episode with Viktor and James, who are the founders of Nasha Gallery. It's a young art gallery, young in terms of the fact that it got started in 2020. These guys are based in Sydney. And what's really cool is that they're really supporting and representing emerging artists. And I guess they've sort of gone about it in a way where they're unbound by the traditional art world. So they're not afraid to take a few risks. And it makes for a really interesting conversation, and keep an ear out for their origin story because it's particularly entertaining. But what did you get out of this chat?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was great. I mean, apart from Victor's cause appreciation of Shrek, parts 1 and 2, presumably, I thought it was really interesting when we talked to them about the nature of what creativity is. And neither of them necessarily had an answer ready to go. And yet, if people listening will hear through the conversation, these are guys that inhabit creativity. They live in a creative world. They are creative. They're problem solvers. They do it all themselves. They've rendered amazing exhibitions from no resources and no time, and they encourage creativity in others and present a platform for that creativity to be shared. So from guys that said, well, the fish can't see the ocean for the water, I think that they are truly creative individuals. And for that reason, I found the conversation really inspiring.
Yeah, we hope you do too. So,
Hi there.
welcome to Creative or Dead, Viktor and James.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
So, you guys are the founders of Nasha Gallery, which is based in Sydney. I guess to start it off, take it in turns, introducing yourselves and a bit of your backstory.
Sure. So I'm James. That is Victor. And yeah, we started Nasha Gallery together the first iteration was in 2020, but we've only sort of been going continuously in a brick and mortar sort of model for about 2 years, I'd say, maybe a bit longer. Our first permanent location was on South Dowling Street in Paddington. And then the building was sold and we had to find a new home. And so we looked around for about 6 months or so. Victor was sort of really good at tracking down real estate agents and sort of finding listings that weren't necessarily listed. And through that, we ended up finding our beautiful space in Haymarket.
It
Yeah,
took a little
wonderful.
while because we always wanted to be in Haymarket in Chinatown. It was the only part of Sydney that felt like we actually live in a big city. There are people on the streets on a Wednesday night. There is stuff to do after an exhibition opening. There are no noise complaints, but it was just walking around and harassing shop owners, asking if there's anything next to them or above them for lease. And it took a little while longer than we thought. But it's an incredible space that we've built in it with major renovations that took place that we did ourselves with a friend who is an architect and a carpenter. So we had a few, we had a few
Well, that's a
visits,
good
site
combo.
visits. Yeah, he's very, very good at what he does. And we had a few beers, a few visits, and thought, we could do this all in 2 months. And then as soon as we started demolition, we realized that it's going to be at least double that or triple that.
Oh,
And then,
often in the way.
Yeah, we're sort of used to doing everything ourselves, like painting all the walls and patching and everything. And we kind of, like in our South Dowling space, we renovated the basement. It was like 3 levels of like a converted terrace. It was tiny. It was like 3 square meters each floor over 3 floors. So it was a really cool space. But yeah, we renovated the basement ourselves, and that took about 2 weeks. And so we kind of thought that this would take 2 weeks, and it ended up taking about 4 months. It was ridiculous. And the first place that we actually saw in Chinatown that we really liked had a lot of problems. Like it needed to, like the floorboards were missing and needed to be reinforced. And we thought we could do that. I don't know why. We thought we had the skills and the resources to, I don't know, shore up a building.
There's a YouTube channel for that, right?
Yeah, there literally is.
exactly.
TikTok, surely. That'd fit the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
This building kind of had everything in it, since it was built around 1900. Every time someone moved in here, they just added stuff, and it was built out of crap. It used to be like a illegal backpackers, a gambling den, a yoga studio, massage parlor, internet cafe, beef noodle place. And every time someone moved in, they just added tiles, extra ceilings, illegal wiring, walls out of cardboard and trash. And so the first thing that kind of we had to do is take about 10, 11 tons down the stairs to make it ours and to make the building happy and to make it how it sort of would have been when it was first built. And we had a lot of stupid ideas as well that luckily, we listened to our architect friend that would have looked horrible and would have not made it out like the place that it is now. And it is obnoxiously large. It's like 230, 40 square meters, something. So if you leave your measuring tape at one end, it's a whole bunch, a whole lot of steps to get it.
Like a 10-minute round trip to go and get it. Yeah. It was Sam Griffith was the architect friend, who was, instrumental in helping us. Like we did have some dumb ideas. Like we wanted to have our office as this sort of cube that could sort of move around the gallery and we could hang pictures on the outside of it.
On wheels, mind you, yeah.
With a remote control inside, so you could just freak out.
Yeah, absolutely. We will have that one day, once the technology is there. But yeah, he talked us out of that really sort of gently. And he had like great ideas, like really subtle things that made the space really quite special. Just like we have these window reveals that are really deep and they sort of protrude from the gyprock walls by about maybe 15 centimeters, and they sort of function as light boxes and they control the sort of glancing light that comes from these huge windows. So you can have pictures in between them and you can comfortably view the work. And they make the walls feel like solid concrete. They're really beautiful and like quite special, but they're really simple. And that was Sam's idea. But he basically said, do this. And then we had to do it all. It was good.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Sam.
I'm interested in pushing you guys a bit further as well. So were you, because you had, if I understand correctly, you both had independent art practices before you became gallerists?
Yeah, definitely.
So I was just going to say, were you
not very good art
gallerists?
practices?
What was the trajectory?
Yeah, average at best. Yeah, like I was at National Art School studying painting, and Victor was at COFA, also studying. You were doing a mixed degree, weren't you?
I was doing international relations and then fine arts. I was doing a double degree. Might have become a diplomat in another life.
What a combo.
That was the other choice.
Seems like you were hedging your bets on two very different things.
100%. I wanted to save the world when I was a bit younger, and then I don't anymore. Really, it's too hard. So fine arts it is. I don't know. I really like James's paintings.
Fine arts to save the world? What are you talking about?
So you liked my paintings?
I really like James's painting. James was a great painter. It was. But there is a time. I don't know. You
should have bought one.
Yeah, probably. You realize there's a difference between sort of being able to make a good artwork and knowing what a good artwork is. They're very different skills, right? And it's sort of, I feel like there are a lot of bitter art dealers that think that they can make better artworks than their artists. And luckily, we're not in that category. We don't have that drive anymore, that torture, wanting to produce things. It's more about being able to show off what we think should be shown. And that's like now, not being an artist, I think that's a crucial role in the art world. Before, I used to think every gallerist is a parasite.
It's hard. Yeah. I think we started the gallery because we saw a cohort of really wonderful artists that sort of came through the art schools with us and a little bit sort of after us. They sort of weren't getting a shot in Sydney. They weren't being exhibited, but we thought that their work was just beyond special, and internationally relevant. But it's a really risky thing for a gallery to do, to take on a young emerging artist that might, like, it's hard. You don't know if they're going to take it seriously or become a skateboarder or, fall in love and just move somewhere else entirely. So for a gallery that needs to pay the rent and everything else, it's a hard thing to do. And so we started a gallery to sort of support that group of artists that we saw and to sort of try and find more, essentially.
It's funny having we've had a few sort of curators or other gallerists come through, and they're like, oh God, it's a very brave undertaking, and it makes us feel so naive, because usually the business model is you work for someone else and you poach their sort of, their best artists, so to speak, and you start your own space. But it does it is heartwarming, but also kind of scary when they're like, "Oh God, that's very brave of you to do that," And I don't know.
Stop saying that.
Yeah. We do think they do deserve to be seen, and they do have a lot of our artists don't have that cultural cringe or chip on their shoulder just because they are Australian artists. A lot of them have more of an international following than they do Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, Adelaide following. They are the new generation of artists, of Australian artists that have seen the rest of the world and that can see artworks being made in New York or London or LA and can stand their ground.
Yeah, amazing. And my understanding is your reputation has really been then founded off it. So did it go from being a very brave undertaking to something that was making more sense the more traction that it got, or the more that you were being known for that particular kind of talent?
Look, it's nice hearing that. But we just sort of like work in a vacuum, me and Victor. Like we're just doing this every single day, like all hours. It's rare that we kind of like step back and like look at it for what it has, I guess, become. Yeah, I don't know. We have no other marketable skills really. So it is the gallery or bust basically.
That's one way to control or to direct any entrepreneurial appetites that you have. Just, it's got to be this.
It's definitely a driving force.
Yeah. And it's like a wonderful life, and it's such a nice thing to be able to do, and like to choose, artists that you want to work with and work with them closely and facilitate their shows, and then help them with their career from the beginning. Most of the artists that we work with, it's like their first solo exhibition. A lot of them have shown, with groups of friends and other artists at sort of like artist run spaces, but it's their first commercial solo exhibition a lot of the time. And it's just, it's wonderful to be able to facilitate that and work with them.
And how many artists are you representing at the moment?
It's about 7 or 8. We're just about to confirm another one, but we're very slow and cautious with it. It just sort of, we look at a lot of other galleries, and when you go on their website and there's like 50 artists, and that just gives me anxiety thinking about it. How can you be doing anything for 50 artists? And I understand, there's staff, etc., but there's only 2 of us here. So we're being very, very slow with it because there's a lot that goes into it, actually representing an artist. We do give a lot of people shows, and we show a lot of people we don't necessarily represent. But when you start representing them, it's sort of, we are trying to do it a bit differently, I guess, because we both were artists, and we're trying to be a lot more transparent with all of our shortcomings and finances, just everything with our artists, like, what we can actually do for them, and kind of work together rather than try to be this sort of illusion or institution of a mega gallery, and so we are just being very, very slow with that.
And what goes into that selection? Like, how do you decide?
It's just essentially whose work resonates with us. Victor and I will talk about it. And have you seen so-and-so's work? A lot of times we both sort of have, and are kind of, are keen to talk about that person with one another. It's just our taste essentially. And then we do studio visits after that. And then, just lots of conversations with the artist, and you need to sort of gauge whether or not it's going to be a good fit, and it's someone that you want to spend, 6 months working on a show with.
It's quite intimate. It's almost like that. What's that test when you're hiring people? It's like, would you have a beer with this person?
Yeah.
If they don't pass that test, then like, can you spend a lot of time with them?
It is an incredibly intimate relationship. Like, most of our represented artists have keys to the gallery, the ones that do live nearby, that they can just come and go as they please. And there is like a lot of trust, I guess, involved, but because they need access at all hours sometimes, especially when you're working towards a show. And if you want to come and have a look at the installation that you did 3 days before it opens, and you're unhappy about it, and you want to look at it at midnight or at 2 a.m., you need to be able to do that, and also not wake us up.
Yeah, it's really lovely. Like, sometimes the artists there'll be one in the back room sort of working out something for the show, and then there'll be another one arriving to drop something off, and they'll like scare the shit out of each other basically. And they're like, it's in the
in the
It's
middle
like
of the
2
night.
o'clock in the morning. They don't expect to see anybody here. Yeah. One's got like headphones on and like, it's very funny. But it's really nice. But it's very frustrating when we go to try and sell an artwork and we can't find it in the gallery and one of the artists has taken it, to enter it into a prize and they've just come in the middle of the night. It's good. It is good.
Amazing. Are there models? I mean, obviously, it sounds as though the way that you have built Nasha has been organic and driven by your own sense of what needs highlighting, what needs to be elevated. Are there gallerists from elsewhere that, whether domestically or internationally, that have things that have inspired you or have influenced the way that you go about it, or has it been really driven out of the self?
It's a very interesting question. We do look at a lot of galleries and mostly overseas galleries, but kind of after working in the art world for a little while, and especially when we've started ourselves, you realize that every model and every gallery is just made up. There are no rules, there are no guidelines, there's no regulation. So you can just work how you want to work. There's no, there is literally, we are very fortunate that we have a few people that we've worked for in the past that we can call up and ask for advice. How do you do a major deal? How do you deal with tax in the UK or the US? So we're very fortunate with that. But otherwise, you have to just make it up as you go along. And also, the most important thing has been just feedback from artists. It's like we had a lot of unsustainable ideas and models. And when we first beginning Nasha Gallery altogether, we were hoping to do a business model where we would keep the third artwork. So if we'd sell 2 artworks, we'd get to keep one from the artist and take that on as stock. That's, there's no way that would function. But we had a lot of ideas like that.
It just sounds like a scam as well. Like it just, we trying to be like, ethical and like, but it just sounded like, every time we explained it, it sounded like we were up to something. But basically the idea was that it would put the onus on us to sell the third one, So like sometimes you'll work with an artist and you'll only be able to sell, like in a big group exhibition or something, you might only be able to sell 2 of their works, especially if it's the first time anyone's ever seen them. And it might be a real slog to sell the third work. And so our idea was, that it would make us work harder, but it did. It just sounded like we were ripping people off.
The kind of the art world version of the cup trick.
Yeah. And after talking to artists
First
as well,
two went for an absolute song.
We realized that artists just wanted to sell the works and to pay their studio rent and just to pay their rent and for it to be, they're happy with the normal commission splits with everything, just as long as their work was shown properly, exhibited, and hopefully sold so they could make more work. That was the main thing. All those naive ideas about commission splits or keeping the third one just kind of evaporated pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a trope, I guess. Like galleries starting and thinking that they're going to like change everything and like do things really ethically and like sort of create a new model, but then you sort of realize that it's so expensive to operate a gallery. Like you don't really make a profit for like a long time, and you don't stop working 7 days a week for like 10 years. And like all the money does go back into the programming. So it's just, you have to just keep selling works. There's no other way of doing other than, the commission split. It works for a reason.
Yeah, it reminds me of publishing. It's like when you're sort of like new to things, you're like, I'm going to change it. I'm going to break the system. And then, to your point.
You can only really do that if you're an aristocrat or something like that.
Yeah.
We're hoping to become those.
Adult adoption is also...
Interesting. I'm interested in, do you have, because of the focus on the emergent work, do you have a particular, I guess, kind of profile of people who buy from you, or is it diverse? Do artists bring their own crowds? What's that like?
It is like it's really, really diverse. A lot of it is like people buying, their first artwork. It's, major collectors. It's people like the idea that we started with the secondary market. That was where our sort of background was. Victor we both worked for what was Sotheby's, now is Smith & Singer, for a long time. Me on and off, Victor sort of more consistently for like 15 years, or no, 10
Forever.
years.
10 years, yeah.
And so the idea was that we would we started dealing in the secondary market a little bit. And the idea is that those clients would then look to this new sort of generation of emerging artists and want to support them and facilitate their sort of career growth. And so it is really nice when that happens. People strictly buy, 10 names on the secondary market come to our gallery and purchase work from our artists. That's a really good feeling.
It is so
Totally.
satisfying. It's like when they don't recognize, when they have just looked at, Whiteley's and Nolan's, and then they look at one of our artists and recognize it as an artwork altogether. And that was kind of another kind of reason why we built such a big gallery and why we undertook this big project, is because we wanted them to be comfortable in the space and to see it. Most of the times that we exhibited when we were artists ourselves would just be moldy basements or convenience stores or this or that, And so if you do want those major collectors, you want them to be in a space that they're comfortable in viewing art and they recognize as a gallery, unfortunately.
Yeah, it serves two functions. It's like, it's a cathedral to art. And we figured that like the artists that we work with, they deserve a space like this. But also, the collectors need to be comfortable. But it's nice also, to make them sort of come down to Haymarket, somewhere where they might not have been for like 20 years or whatever, and then sort of walk up the stairs. It does feel like you're about to be trafficked as you're sort of entering the gallery, but then you step into this beautiful like ambient space.
Yeah, not a familiar feeling for that crowd, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But it sounds as though you've almost curated the conditions for viewing the work as well as curating the work that you're showing. It feels like a very deliberate experience that you've designed.
Some of it is purely by accident. One of the first comments we get from newcomers is there's no signage and it's just bloody hard to find where the gallery is. And we like to do things a certain way. So we had these plans for a sign, but it costs an exorbitant amount of money. So we don't have signage until we can do it the way we want to do it, And so some of them are just happy accidents how the space is, but some of them are obviously thought out and very much on purpose.
Love to maybe like shift gears a little bit. And, this podcast is called Creative or Dead. You guys work with artists. That's obviously a creative thing, but you're also artists yourselves. What does creativity mean to you, James?
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of, I guess it's something innate within you that you just need to express, I suppose. Often, I don't really interrogate it too much. I guess that's the pleasure of being in the art world. It sort of is the day-to-day. It is the conversations that we have like constantly. So I don't know if I've defined like creativity for myself. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's just that drive that the artists have, that sort of is that need to express something like not necessarily unique to their experience, but I guess motivated by it. I don't know is my answer. I don't know what creativity really is.
I mean, you're around it all the time. And that must I don't know, it's osmosis. It probably rubs off on you guys.
Mm.
It's hard to see the ocean when you're
Victor,
a fish, It's yeah.
No ocean, pun intended.
I think it's interesting to see, creative people who don't necessarily become artists. So we have a lot of friends that we went to art school with as well and who wanted to be artists, but then decided to do something else. And they do have this desire to make, no matter what they go into, they'll go into, say, gardening or landscape design, they'll go into carpentry, and they just they cannot stop making. They have a desire to make and there's just no way to turn it off. And I think that is sort of creativity, and it comes out in a lot of forms, not necessarily just being an.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it exists like in every, in every sphere. Like there's creative accounting, for example, it's like.
We all need a creative accountant putting it out.
I don't have like a neat definition for it. I think that people just need to, there's like a desire within people to sort of just keep going with whatever it is that they do and like push, I guess, boundaries for themselves, or challenge ideas in their heads. But yeah, it doesn't just exist in the creative fields. It's something like universal, I think.
I mean, you guys are obviously doing that with the gallery, pushing, doing stuff differently or doing it how you want to do it. There's obviously something motivating you to do that, which you could call creative.
Stubbornness.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, I think.
Yeah, very much so.
Creativity takes resolve.
You need a place to be creative a lot of the time. And that's why it's so hard in Australia for, artists, is because there is no space to be creative. So that's what if anything, we're just facilitating other people's creativity, hopefully, or their creative output, and giving them a space to do that.
We're the lecherous middlemen, basically.
Giving just enough room and then tightening. Well, maybe I could turn the ocean to maybe not a teacup, but maybe a swimming pool for you fish. So in terms of your work, perceiving what is a good work, what is an interesting art practice, what's the balance between the output, the actual work that you're going to hang, and what you observe of the practice, how the person is and makes, and the drive. Do you, I mean, I assume it's an intuitive thing, but are you ever conscious of balancing those two things, or is it always just the work that's on the wall that you work off?
I think, look, from studio visits, you can really tell what people are, not just judge them by their output and just the artwork that's on the wall. That's why it's just been super important, crucial for us to do multiple studio visits. And the first one is generally everyone is nervous, just like, the first time you do a podcast. So it's very hard to gauge that. That's why it's important to come back and keep on doing the studio visits and to see how, how people talk about their work. And generally, the first time you go to an artist studio, they'll just fire off a lot of jargon that we all learned in art school, and you don't actually get to know much about them or their work. So then when you get to know them a bit better, you actually get a better understanding of what they're about, and you can make an informed decision whether they're, whether you like the work or not altogether, not just the immediate reaction.
Yeah, you need to have a sense that they're definitely going to keep making work. We feel like an exhibition needs to fit in a long sort of timeline. It's not just one show, or we're in love with, a few paintings that an artist has produced, and then we pursue them and try and show those paintings in the gallery because we want those paintings on our walls. We want them in, on our Instagram feed or whatever. It needs to feel like it's going to last a long time. We owe that to them and to our clients. We don't want to sell an artwork to a collector that's sort of just going to, stop making work. We need to believe in their practice the way that they do.
And if you give a show, what does it look like from a practical perspective in terms of your input into the process of the making and the selecting of the works that are going to make the cut?
Look, it's the artist's show, essentially. We do have, we gently try and guide the decisions a little bit, but it's quite collaborative, really. We get the artist to bring as many works as possible into the space, and then there's a bit of a selection process. It's just conversations over a few days, different arrangements of the works. We don't dictate what's in the show. We like to assist the artist in finding the exhibition, because it's pretty rare that an artist will do, an exhibition. There's 10 paintings. These are the 10 paintings. They're all done. This is what the show is. Here you go. Put them on the walls. It's usually like push and pull and find, because it's so different having, a tiny studio somewhere, in the inner west or wherever the studio is. And you see the works, they're made in that studio under that light. And you're only ever really looking at maybe one or two or maybe three at a time, depending on the size of the works. But there's no room to lay them out and think about how the works really relate to each other, and how, certain combinations really bring certain elements out in works or smother them. So yeah, it's a nice process. And we always feel that, every show that we've done felt that the artist has been really happy with, we've been really happy with. And that's just, it's just taking time and doing things slowly and being transparent and not dictating, but just talking.
You've said transparent a couple of times. What does that mean for you guys? I mean, is it the kind of that relationship building with your artists, and how is it different to how the normal art world functions, I guess?
The whole art industry is incredibly opaque, especially when you're an artist, when you're on that rung. When you're a collector or you're a curator or a gallery owner, it becomes a bit more transparent. but it's important. You just have no idea how anything happens as an artist, apart from, a lot of galleries won't tell them artists where the work is going, who's purchased it, who's collecting it, who's come in,
Really?
and because we are learning as we're going as well, and growing together, we have all the conversations with our artists about, how it's all progressing and what we can do together to make it better. And also, I guess, financial transparency as well about how much it costs, and, we're well in advance of the show, It just doesn't need to be so, like, the whole thing doesn't need to be so opaque, and you can't, there's, you just have no idea when someone like a curator, when they come into the gallery and they view your work, what they expect when you're an artist. And it becomes very nerve-wracking. It makes the whole process a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Sounds like you're doing a good thing.
Trying to.
But then you guys seem to have very nice rapport. I get the sense that you may have a bit of a history there. And we did some digging leading into sitting down to record with you guys, and found out that you went to high school together and then reconnected was it, more as adults, or like give us that story. I'm very curious.
Do you want to tell it, Victor, or?
Either or, I'm happy. We went to boarding school together. We weren't very friendly in high school. I remember on my first day, I moved there. I moved there in end of year 10. And on my first day of school, we used to have these communal sandwich presses. And I remember I don't remember taking, this is all, whatever James says is a lie, but I took his sandwich that he made, and he's very specific about his sandwiches. And
Look, I'm really annoying. I have rules for stuff, and there was like a special sandwich made in a special way that I liked. And
he was just talking about how disappointed he is in a sandwich today, just for context. He just had a sandwich earlier before this interview.
I watched the new kid sort of walk into the kitchen, like the food place, I don't know what you would call that, the dining area, and walk across the thing, open up the sandwich press, take my sandwich, put it on his plate, and sit over there and start eating it and looking at me. And I thought this was an act of aggression. This is his first day.
It was a pretty good sandwich as well. It was pretty good.
But no, we both went to boarding school. I got sent there I was living in Fiji at the time. I got sent to boarding school because I was bad. Victor got sent to boarding school because he was good. And that was, our first experience together. Then we sort of hung out a little bit. You were always really good at art. You were sort of, the star kind of art student. All the art teachers really liked you. And because you knew about icon painting and things like that.
My mum wanted me to be an icon painter when I was a kid, so
Yeah.
What's an icon painter? Should I know this?
Religious icons. They're a very specific kind of artist, especially in Ukraine. They're in Eastern Europe, you have to be basically a monk to do it, right? And all the teachers did think that my parents, lots of gold leaf. I convinced a lot of the teachers, because I have a Ukrainian surname, that my parents lived in Ukraine. So I was in boarding school. So come parent-teacher night, I had to go by myself, which was really nice. And they're all nice to me because I think they thought that I was just, here without my family by myself.
Poor little Victor, all alone.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we sort of hung out quite a little bit. But then you went to Europe after high school with your older brother, and spent time with his friends and toured around and had a really nice time. And then you came back and we sort of reconnected at a party just in the back of a friend's garage, basically, at a house party. And we were talking about your time in Europe and everything. And then we just realized that we got along really well. And we pretty much have spent almost every day together since then.
Oh my God.
Especially all throughout our 20s, which is pretty strange, but it's been really nice. And and we've worked together for a long time at what formerly Sotheby's, now Smith & Singer. And then you sort of went and worked with Rex Owen. And I actually went to do stockbroking for a while. I took a step out of after art school. I just kind of
That is
funneling you
rogue.
straight in.
Speculative, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, there's recruiters from stockbroking firms at the grad shows, and they just pick sort of the most mediocre painters, try and get them to come and be stockbrokers. But no, I wanted to do something that was entirely out of the art world. I wanted to sort of really, because it's hard. Like at art school, you think that everything that you're doing is, incredibly important, and it is to a degree, but it's not everyone's experience, and it's such a lucky and fortunate thing to be able to go and study art and learn about art history and have an art practice. It's just, it's wonderful. But it's not everyone's experience. And I wanted to go and sort of see, I guess, what office life is like and what the financial world was sort of like. And I'd started a degree in like commerce, I think, for finance, Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in finance. That's what it was. And I got an email to come and finish that. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so I just went and did it. And then I ended up managing Rex Irwin's money at the stockbroking firm I was at. So you were working for him in the gallery, and I was, it was really nice. It was lovely. Rex is great. And so we had a long history of working together. And so when I was doing stockbroking, I was miserable. My skin was gray. I couldn't handle it, like the office life. It was
like
it was
transparent, like an axolotl.
I was miserable. So sad. And so we were talking about it and like sort of dreaming, like, because we'd always been talking about maybe making a gallery one day. And we started to sort of talk more seriously about it. And then I guess COVID, no one wants to talk about COVID. It's the most boring thing in the world, but COVID hit. And I was able to work from home, and like a lot of office jobs, most of my work I could do in about half an hour if I actually did it. And I'd have the rest of the day to sort of run around and do studio visits, the clandestine studio visits with the artist, and sort of build the gallery with Victor. It was a really weird, like if you have another hour, we can talk about that process, but that was crazy in the lead up to the first exhibition. But yeah, basically I was able to keep a full-time job and make a gallery with Victor, and it was good and it worked. And here we are.
And the art saved you
The end.
from the tragedy of stockbroking.
Absolutely. We bought a van. And everything's been good since then. The van is very sick at the moment.
That is a curveball. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because, when I was doing fine arts, anytime anyone asked me what I was studying, I would say I'm studying fine arts. And they're like, oh, that's sensible. I'm glad you're doing, you're studying finance. That's a good idea. That'll set you up well. And I was like, no, fine art, like art painting. And they're like, oh, okay, sorry. And then when I was back studying, yeah. And then when I was studying finance, everyone would say, oh, that's wonderful that you're, pursuing your passion. And I'm like, no, finance, like money, stock market. So people I think I mumble. I think that's the problem.
Yeah. It sounded more like a speech impediment than anything else. Or
So
Freudian. I mean, maybe there's a deep-seated kind of psychological dissonance there that you had to work through.
Yeah, maybe. I think these people just wanted the best for me. I don't know.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to have around you.
So then that first show, Victor, tell us about the very first sort of like launch of Nasha.
God, it was because it was in between. I think there was like a week in between lockdowns where you could do things, when you can go outside and do stuff. And we've been planning it for a little while. And because there was just nothing happening, we just wanted to do something big and for everyone. So there was, I think, about 38 artists we got together. We found an empty building on Crown Street and leased it for like 3 weeks, I think it was. And we had to get close to 140 artworks together and documented and installed. And I think we had about a week to do it. And I remember we had you couldn't, there was some silly rules where you couldn't stand and drink and look at art. That was part of the lockdown thing. So when the police came, we had to get everyone to sit down on the floor. And there was like hundreds of people, and everyone had to sit down on the floor and look at the paintings with the, beer cans and wine glasses. And we just wanted to have a mega show with everyone's art that we liked. And it's been nice seeing, I found photos on my laptop from the first of exhibition and all the people that did come and and the artists from that show where their careers have gone. And it's been kind of really heartwarming and nice I was looking for completely different photos that we needed to send someone that were like overdue by 2 weeks, but I spent 2 hours looking at those photos.
Sounds like the creative mindset at work.
There you go. Yeah.
Follow the tangents wherever
Yeah.
they go.
I think creativity is replying to every email like with apologies for the late reply. You know, that's creativity.
It's in my email
Yeah.
signature now. It's like permanently on all the emails.
I'm going to steal that because I'm perennially like slow on email.
Yeah.
Oh my God, amazing. You'll have to send us some pictures from that show. I will live it through the memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my laptop. I'll flick them through.
That was insane. That was a lot of fun. That was, we were like printing wall labels and adjusting lighting as the people were entering. Like it was nuts. It was really fun though. It was so good.
You know, you can just reframe it. It's authentic.
Yeah. And like there was a half a ton sort of sculptures that we were trying to load into the gallery space and install. And like one of them, it was this timber sculpture. It's been like waxed with like was it paraffin wax, Victor?
It was freshly oiled by the artist.
Freshly
Great artist,
oiled.
bent tooth.
So it's incredibly slippery.
And it was like
It's like
400
handling a
kilos.
fish or
And we're trying to
something.
unload it from his ute. And that was just the final, like the last thing. And we realized there was only one PowerPoint in that whole building actually that we leased. So we had to went to Bunnings and bought, I think, like 200 downlights, you know, for like the cheapest lights they had, and had to string them up illegally to the fire sprinkler system of the roof. There was,
We still have a garbage bag full of the lights in my garage. If anybody needs lights for a DIY art show, hit me up.
Or an artist who wants to turn them into an artwork, maybe.
Yeah. If I can find the receipt, I'll return them to Bunnings.
So then that was a few years ago. You've obviously kept going. You've got your new cool space. But what else is on the cards? You guys will be in town for Melbourne Art Fair in February, which we're recording in February, so that's very soon. And Adelaide, there's also a trip to Adelaide, I believe.
There is, yeah. We're going to drive the works as we historically do, drive the works ourselves to Melbourne Art Fair in our van, and that's for James Little's presentation there. Very excited for that. We actually have the best experience at Melbourne Art Fair the 2 times that we've done it before. And then after that, we are driving straight from Melbourne to Adelaide, to the Adelaide Biennial. That's curated by Ellie Buttrose. We have 2 artists that we're working with. One of them is our represented artist, Mark Marenghi Carroll, that's in it. And then another one, Joel Spring, who has an exhibition later this year, actually. And so we're very looking forward to that. We get to tuck our shirts in and go to the nice event. And it's an exhibition that we didn't have to install or carry the beers up the stairs for. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be great. First time going to Adelaide, and everyone that I've ever spoken to that's ever been to Adelaide raves about it sort of nonstop. And then later in the year, actually, we're going to Auckland as well. That'll be wonderful too.
Is that for the art fair?
For the art fair as well, yeah. We've decided, and then it's back-to-back exhibitions. The rest of the year's solo shows. We've got a group show opening up next Friday 13th, for the Year of the Fire Horse, a horse show. But then the rest of the year is just solo shows. And we've decided to sort of keep them up for longer and to have more space in between. Because the first year that we opened here in Chinatown, we had such a backlog of shows that we wanted to do because the renovations dragged on, where in some cases we had like 5 days in between exhibitions, and you have to bump in and bump out and document and do everything. And this time we're just trying, even if we're going to be here 7 days a week, we have to stay alive somehow. And so, at least 2 weeks between a show, and the shows being, a month long or longer. Yeah.
I guess these are the things you figure out once you're like in it and you're doing the thing. You're like, you know what? No, we're going to do it in a different cadence.
That year was hell. Let's try and make this one work, be functional. And we've got some wonderful shows planned in the gallery, and they really do deserve, at least a full month. It's hard, I think, because we were in between spaces and the build took a lot longer than we thought, and we sort of overpromised exhibitions, and we ended up having to sort of really sort of cram everything into the year. But years just simply aren't long enough. It's ridiculous. We're trying to find like an extra month or petition to have another day of the week added, because it's not enough time to do anything. a year. And so we've sort of spaced things out a bit more because it's not fair when, I don't know, you work really hard with the artist and they work really hard for a show and then it feels like it's over so quickly. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'll work well this year.
Yeah. And you know what? If it doesn't, you can do something different next year.
One show a year.
11 months to recover in between.
Yes, please.
I mean, a road trip also sounds fun. I feel like it's that.
Yeah, we did one we had a collector up in Queensland that had bought a bunch of works, and then it made sense after a little while to put them in the van and drive them up ourselves and then install them. And so that was in Queensland, and we planned a trip stopping at a whole bunch of regional galleries along the way to meet the directors and just say hello and introduce ourselves and sort of see what their spaces were like and like talk about their programs and sort of talk about our artists as well. And that was just a great experience. It was so wonderful, like going and visiting, like, like Harvey Bay, for example, and
Rockhampton.
Yeah,
That was good as well.
You're talking to a Queenslander here, so I know a lot of Queensland, small towns. Not
Queensland
many,
rules.
and I hope no one from Rockhampton is listening, but I don't think many people would be like, Rockhampton's great.
Yeah.
It's so
Rockhampton
small.
Art Museum is incredible. It is such a good space. Yeah, it is stunning. And they put on some very, very good shows. They have a lot of freedom in what they do. Rockhampton Art Museum, worth a visit. And we're not sponsored by Rockhampton City Council.
Get a case of Forex every time we say anything to do with them.
They have a big cow.
Honestly, it's it's an incredible exhibition space. Like the museum is like, it's wonderful. It's so like, it's like on par with the MCA. It's ridiculous. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be quite so grand and serious. And yeah, their program is wonderful. Yeah, a lot of the directors of these regional galleries are really keen and eager to sort of talk to people that want to talk to them. And I think it's quite a difficult thing to do because you're sort of managing so many different stakeholders in the community as a director that's sort of come on to sort of, run a program. You're juggling a lot, and like there's a lot of things you have to balance between, the sort of, local painting groups that sort of do still life paintings and want to have their exhibition in your, in the regional gallery, and whatever else you might have planned. It's like I think it's a hard thing, and there's not much funding, and the directors are doing sort of everything from, getting the pictures there, installing everything, running social media, website, all that sort of stuff. It's like they're often, they work really hard, and it's nice to go and talk to them.
Well, we're big fans of regional galleries. We had the curator from Ballarat Art Gallery on our first season, Julie McLaren.
Yeah. Julie McLaren, yeah. She's up at Hota now on the Gold Coast, also doing amazing work up there.
Yeah. Hota is great as well. We're actually having a meet. We're going to meet people at Ballarat on our way between Melbourne and Adelaide. We've just replied to their email today.
Oh.
Good. Who are you?
We can send you a screenshot for proof.
Sorry for the late reply.
I believe it's Emily.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Shout out to
I'm
Emily.
on the board of Ballarat. Yes, I know Emily and the team up there, and Helen's Louise Teggett's our director, and Helen Walpole's managing in her absence on some leave at the moment. But yes, we're very proud of all the work they do up there. And I know exactly what you mean about. Yeah, it is a local. Yeah, it's a local entity. It has a local community that it serves, and yet, in the case of Ballarat, I think they've got the 4th or 5th biggest collection in the country of post-colonial Australian art, all the way through, from the 1860s and 70s through to today, and that collection needs to be shown. There's an academic audience who want to be able to access it and see it. We want to be able to show more of it, but then at the same time, you are rooted in place and the experience of place, and connected to the city as well. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of Humphrey Clegg, who's down in Geelong, as the director there at the Geelong Gallery. He was the associate director at Ballarat as well. But he and Louise Teggett particularly, like to see, they sweat blood for the caliber of work that they want to bring to these kind of places, and it only works on their back.
Absolutely,
the particular kind of person that can do that kind of work, I think.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and the Harvey Bay gallery was great too. They had this really wonderful show on at the time. It was a local artist who he was kind of, I think he was like widely sort of hated. I think he was a really unpleasant person
Yes.
and
The community
just
hated
bothered
him.
everybody. Yeah, the community
Concha.
hated him. But he did these paintings of birds, like native birds, on bus stops, like just like graffiti. Like he just would go out in the middle of the night and sort of paint the bus stop. And they had found a bunch of them and like taken them off, like the panels off, and brought them into the gallery and had a sort of retrospective. I think he died sort of recently. A retrospective of his work in the gallery, and it was just such a funny thing to do. Like, because we're just listening to the directors talking about how much everyone hated this guy, and there were just such beautiful paintings of birds. It was good.
And the buses were just doing endless loops with nowhere to stop, presumably, for the week thereafter.
Yeah, and they're lovely people. And I think a lot of the time they arrive and they're taking over everything. So the keys are essentially, thrown at them. They catch the keys and then they're like, "It's all yours now. Like, you make it happen, make it work."
Yeah, yeah.
And,
The bins
they
go
do
out on
good work.
Tuesday nights. Good luck.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, is it time for our final question, David? I hope you
Yeah,
guys
I think so.
I hope you guys read our final question. Some time to think about it. But if not, we love off the cuff as well. So we ask our guests the same question every time, which is, if you could design your death, what would you do? And you can go into as much detail about, what music there might be, or it can be a bit more philosophical or esoteric, however you want to take that question. It never ceases to surprise us what people come back with. So, James, maybe you can go first.
I don't know, maybe like Entombed. Well, first of all, the death is just nude people with animal masks. That's how it ends for me. I think like a crowd of naked people with animal masks and capes. But I think, I don't know, entombed in like a huge kilometer sort of block of cement, kilometer cube of cement in the desert somewhere, with sort of like symbols for future generations to understand that this is not something that you need to dig up, sort of like nuclear simulacra, something like that. Some sort of symbol that just indicates that something is here, basically.
Wow. Is this the length
That's
you will
it.
go to avoid being disturbed, having worked
That's it.
24 hours a
Just
day,
please
7
leave me
days a week for your life? I'm done. Would you take an artwork? Would you be entombed with an
Absolutely not.
artwork?
No, thank you.
Done with art. Onto the
That's
void.
it. Sort of just like this in a cube of concrete.
I love that. That's new.
Good.
That's definitely
Yeah, we're not had that.
original.
That's all I want.
We'll do our best to deliver it for you. Should we be there?
And Victor, what about you?
I did think about this a bit. I was trying to think the first time, that death really affected me, seeing it somewhere. And I was thinking about the giant gingerbread man in Shrek 2. And that really, that really got me when I was a kid. And I want to die in a similar way. I want to die sort of with friends, a weapon in my hand, fighting for a cause I believe in. I don't know if it's righteous cause or not, but just like the giant gingerbread man, and people to be sad that I died. That would be a nice feeling.
Nice. The last stand of Chinatown. Protecting
They'll
the
never get me
artworks.
alive, yeah.
Fighting off our landlord, trying to evict us.
All the people he hooked up the illegal lights to finally got the bill. That's pretty good. I think that's good. Giant gingerbread man fighting off with his friends, and massive block of concrete.
Yep.
Very arty.
Big term. Is that what most people say? Is it sort of stuff? Is it that?
That's the most common answers,
You guys are so vanilla, so basic.
I mean, it's a gamut. There's people who have told us stories with misty eyes that have brought everyone to tears, and then there's Todd, who programs the Melbourne Fashion Festival, who is going to be surrounded in a kind of a Van Eyck style scenario of ruffs and velvet and still life fruits and hairs and all sorts of stuff around him.
The reality is,
pretty...
sorry, go on.
No, you go.
I was going to say, the reality is that we're all just going to be eviscerated and torn apart by Generation Alpha. That's just how it ends for all of us.
Pillow on our face.
Yeah, some people got to saw the green in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The generational turnover will be enforced.
Yeah,
good.
wow. I mean, amazing. I love this. I love this so much. Well, yeah, I think that is a great
That's all we
episode. And
got.
thank you so much for sharing your story and what you guys have been up to. I'm pretty excited to see you at Melbourne Art Fair.
Yeah. Hair
Likewise.
combed and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Showered
all
and
of us.
perfumed.
It's quite a presentation as well. You wait till you see James Little's work.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Creative or Dead. This episode was recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and we would like to pay respects to elders past and present, extending that acknowledgement to all First Nations and Indigenous peoples around the world.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, you can find many more like it on whatever platform you get your podcasts. And if you've really enjoyed it, please feel free to leave us a review or to share it with someone that you think might find it interesting.